On the day my half-sister eloped, I heard the voice of my unborn child. My mother would undoubtedly never suspect that my aunt was hidden away by my father in his study. Both my father and I yearn for my aunt to become my mother. How can we compel that wretched woman to marry in her stead? Upon hearing these words, I promptly consumed 2 bowls of abortifacient. In my previous life, I was reluctant to part with this child and revealed my half-sister's whereabouts publicly, forcing her to become the crown prince's good luck charm. From the moment he was born, my son was a prodigy. Under my support, my husband garnered the emperor's favor, rising from a commoner to a minor official. In just 3 years, he ascended to the position of chancellor. However, as he was about to assume office, my half-sister was brutally beaten to death for consorting with another. Upon hearing the news, my husband forced poison down my throat, while my son plunged a knife into my heart. Why should you bask in the glory we have brought, living so splendidly, while our aunt is condemned to a life of mourning? We desire nothing more than to become one family with her. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back on the day of my half-sister's elopement. This time, they fulfilled their wish to become a family with my sister. Yet in the end, they wept and begged me to return. Upon my rebirth, the first task I undertook was to instruct my maidservant to procure abortion pills for me. She diligently prepared 2 large bowls. As the first bowl was consumed, the fetus within me, Xiao Jincheng, began to wail in agony. Song Zhaomian, you wretched woman, what are you drinking? You want to kill me? Stop this at once. I did not grant him the opportunity to utter a third sentence and forcefully poured the second bowl of abortifacient into my mouth. In mere moments, excruciating pain seized my lower abdomen. The fetus, not yet 7 months along with blood, flowed from my body. The maid, upon witnessing this, turned as pale as a sheet, stammering, "Madam, this." After much hesitation, she was unable to articulate a complete thought. In stark contrast, I calmly wiped the blood from my body and commanded her to fetch a dog. The maid returned with a dog, as well as Xiao Chu. Upon entering, he beheld the sight of the lifeless fetus, half devoured by the dog. In a fit of rage, Xiao Chu unsheathed his sword and struck the dog dead. Turning to face me, his countenance was ashen, yet his words were unexpectedly revealing. Song Zhaomian, you have been reborn? I lifted my gaze to meet his eyes, which were filled with disdain. I was taken aback to discover that he too had experienced rebirth. My father, merely a humble physician in the capital, had been chosen by the emperor to become a familial ally, not due to his medical prowess, but because the crown prince was gravely ill, and my sister's fate was deemed compatible with his. Thus, the emperor selected her to be wed as a bride to bring him good fortune. This was ostensibly a tremendous blessing. However, the moment the marriage contract arrived at our home, my sister succumbed to madness. She was not the first to be offered as a good fortune bride to the crown prince. 3 previous brides had perished within 2 years of their marriages. Over time, rumors spread that a life-exchanging ritual existed within the Eastern Palace. Those young women were not merely there to bring good fortune, but rather to extend the prince's life. My sister cried and pleaded, desperate to escape this fate, imploring our father for salvation. Yet, no one could intervene. The current emperor had only one son, and his favoritism had reached a warped extreme. Even my father's affection for my sister held no power to thwart this matter. Thus, 1 month prior to the wedding, my sister fled. Escaping a marriage was a grave offense, particularly one involving the crown prince. Fearing repercussions for the entire Song family, my father approached me to discuss a resolution. In his desperation, Xiao Chu claimed he had a plan. I was taken aback. Xiao Chu was a scholar, intent on achieving the highest honors, and seldom lent a hand even at home. How could he be so invested in my sister's plight? Just as I was about to inquire about his plan, I suddenly heard a voice from within my womb. It became clear to me that my sister was hidden away by Xiao Chu. He intended to administer a narcotic to me, and while I was unconscious, perform a cesarean to remove the child, allowing me to take my sister's place in the bridal sedan. Upon hearing this, I did not lose faith in Xiao Chu. Instead, I divulged my sister's whereabouts to my father, permitting him to take her away and force her into the Eastern Palace. In the aftermath, I treated Xiao Chu and Xiao Jincheng with even greater kindness, hoping that one day I could touch their hearts and make them forget about my sister. However, my fate turned out to be tragically bleak. They both dug out my heart and found it insufficient. They discarded my corpse to the ravenous dogs. Watching as the beasts devoured me completely, their faces finally reflecting a sense of revenge fulfilled. Reflecting on this, I let out a cold laugh. Since we have all been reborn, there is no need for further words. I would marry the crown prince in place of Song Zhaoxue, but only if you agree to 2 conditions, or else we shall all perish. 2. My 2 conditions are quite straightforward.
Firstly, Xiao Kemest divorce.
I am aware that Xiao Chu's scheme involves me taking my sister's place as the bride to the Eastern Palace while she, in my stead, remains by his side. Yet, the name Song Zhaomian was bestowed upon me by my mother. 3 days after her death, my stepmother brought my sister into our home, usurping my mother's place. My sister is unworthy of bearing that name. The second condition is that I must take all of the Xiao family's businesses with me. When I first married into the Xiao family, they possessed only a single tavern. With my in-laws ailing, and Xiao Chu lacking any business acumen, I took over the tavern at their behest. To my astonishment, the enterprise flourished. Today, I possess shops spanning 3 streets in the capital. With my in-laws deceased, all of this is the fruit of my labor and cannot be left to this pair of treacherous souls. Demanding these 2 items is more excruciating than carving flesh from Xiao Chu. Yet, for the sake of my sister, he acquiesced. That very day, I obtained the divorce decree and returned to the Song family with 2 large chests filled with property deeds. Others may not discern the difference between me and my sister, but my father certainly can. However, upon hearing the entire situation, he merely nodded in acknowledgement, saying, "Zhaomian, you have always been more discerning than your sister. If it is you who wed to the Eastern Palace, I shall feel at ease." Having grown accustomed to my father's favoritism throughout my life, the sting of his words still pierced my heart. After our divorce, Xiao Chu was eager to grant my sister a proper status. He approached my father, seeking for my sister to wed as his adopted daughter. Without hesitation, my father agreed. Thus, 10 days after my departure, news spread throughout the capital that the eldest daughter of the Song family, Song Zhaomian, had passed away and that the family had adopted a girl named Song Zhaozhao. Regardless of the rumors circulating outside, I remained impassive as I prepared my dowry. Since Song Zhaomian was dead, not a single belonging of mine would remain in this household. Ultimately, it was the crown prince's wedding. On the day of the marriage, the spectacle was nothing short of astounding. Before entering the bridal sedan, I encountered my long-lost sister. She stood with Xiao Chu behind me, gazing into the mirror at my reflection, exclaiming congratulations. "I truly envy you, dear sister. You are about to wed the crown prince and ascend to great heights." I cast her a fleeting glance. "Indeed, you ought to envy me, for with your standing, you shall never lay eyes upon the crown prince." "Song Zhaomian, what are you pretending for?" Her words ignited a fire of humiliation within my sister. She retorted, "We both know how the position of crown princess came to be. It was granted to you because of me." Just as she reached the climax of her tirade, Xiao Chu pulled her back, silencing her. Then he addressed me, "Song Zhaomian, do you truly believe you are going to enjoy a life of luxury? The crown prince is a man destined for a short life. He shall never leave his bed. You are merely there to extend his life, a mere companion in death. The thought of your future existence fills me with pity." I smiled faintly. "You need not concern yourself with how I shall live. Instead, perhaps you should worry about my sister's future, for the Qin Tower is no place of virtue. Should she become tainted, Song Zhaomian, be silent." My sister's face paled as she interrupted me. "You are simply envious that brother Xiao Chu chose me over you. What of marrying the crown prince? I must tell you, I dreamt last night of a child who claimed to be the star of literature, wishing to reincarnate in my womb. If I were to conceive and bear him, brother Xiao Chu would surely ascend to the position of chancellor." Upon hearing this, both Xiao Chu and I widened our eyes in disbelief. If my sister spoke the truth, then this child must be Xiao Jincheng. In my previous life, I too had a similar dream. Moreover, after Xiao Jincheng's birth, he was indeed unlike any other. Not only was he exceptionally handsome, but he spoke upon birth, composed poetry at 8 months, and even possessed the ability to prophesy. Soon, the news of Xiao Jincheng as the reincarnation of the star of literature spread like wildfire throughout the capital, capturing the emperor's attention. He dispatched individuals to summon us to the palace. Not only did our son make his debut before the imperial court, but Xiao Chu, due to his exceptional qualities, was bestowed an official title by the emperor. Subsequently, as our son's reputation grew, he ascended to the chancellorship within 3 years, owing much to this event. Perhaps it was the recollection of past events that compelled Xiao Chu to seize my sister and flee. Before they could exit, I heard her playful admonition, "Brother Xiao Chu, do calm yourself, it is still daytime." Clearly, he was impatient and eager to expedite the arrival of their child. At the sound of their words, I could not suppress a derisive laugh. Xiao Chu had always believed that his ascent to prominence was solely due to his own talents and the reputation of his son. Little did he realize that every step they took was meticulously paved by my financial support. While his son possessed a modicum of cleverness, he fell far short of being a prodigy. The accolades surrounding him were mere fabrications orchestrated by my monetary influence over storytellers, all aimed at ensuring the emperor's notice of Xiao Chu. After all, Xiao Chu had failed the imperial examinations thrice. It was not a lack of talent that held him back, but rather his mindset. In my previous life, I could never fathom why both father and son favored my sister over me. Just before my demise, they expressed their belief that I was too scheming. Preferring my sister's simplicity, they felt suffocated by my relentless pursuit of them, believing that liberation from me would lead to a better life. Thus, I was eager to witness how my sister, who reveled in the pleasures of the Qin Tower and squandered her days in debauchery, would elevate them to greatness. I entered the Eastern Palace in the morning and did not meet Crown Prince Siejin until the evening. He possessed an extraordinarily handsome visage, yet lay frail upon his bed. His temperament was not as fiercely intimidating as the rumors suggested. Rather, he spoke with a gentle tone, inviting me closer and inquiring when I planned to flee. My mind went blank, and I collapsed to my knees, pleading for mercy. Everyone knew my father was a masterful physician, yet few recognized that it was my mother who possessed the true gift of healing. After her passing, she left me a trove of medical texts and herbs. In my youth, I had indulged in play while immersing myself in her manuals, mastering all the medical knowledge contained within. Before my arrival, I had concocted a potion that would simulate death, intending to use it at an opportune moment. Yet, I had never confided this plan to anyone. How did he know? Do not be afraid, Siejin reassured me. I harbor no ulterior motives. As you can see, my condition is precarious. I cannot endure for more than 2 years. Rest assured, before I depart this world, I will grant you a new identity, allowing you to leave the palace. His words relieved me. It seemed I had misunderstood him. I recalled the rumors of the deceased crown princesses. Had they, too, been sent away in such a manner? My silence was misinterpreted by Siejin as resistance. He continued, "If you wish to leave tomorrow, you may." However, before he could finish, I seized his wrist. "Crown Prince, I can save you. Will you trust me?" Siejin regarded me with a complex expression for a long moment before finally nodding. My methods of treatment were no different from those of other physicians: herbal concoctions, acupuncture, medicinal baths, but Siejin's health began to improve remarkably. After approximately 4 months, he was able to rise and walk, gaining a bit of weight. Upon learning of his recovery, the emperor visited to express his delight and rewarded me generously with gold and silver. This news spread throughout the palace, and many proclaimed me a reincarnation of the legendary physician Hua Tuo. When this news reached my sister and Xiao Chu, they reproached me for saving Siejin. I found their indignation amusing. Siejin is my husband. If I had the ability to save him, why would I not? Song Zhaomian, have you lost your mind? Xiao Chu scolded, pointing a finger at me. What benefit do you gain from saving him? If he discovers we have replaced the bride, it constitutes treason, and we will all suffer dire consequences. What does that have to do with me? I replied nonchalantly. I have healed him, and when he finds out, he will not execute me. Xiao Chu's face turned pale with anger. My sister pulled him aside and then turned back to me, saying, "Sister, we mean well. Even if you miraculously cured the crown prince, do you truly believe the royal family would accept a woman of your lowly birth as a crown princess? You would be expelled from the Eastern Palace and left to rely on us for help." I scoffed. How touching. I heard you sold the ancestral home and can barely afford to eat. How can you concern yourselves with my affairs? Instead of worrying about me, you should focus on earning more money to avoid starving your unborn child. Xiao Chu was engrossed in his studies, while my sister was preoccupied with drinking. In just a few short months, my meager savings had been exhausted. The two of them sold everything they could, yet none expressed a desire to seek a livelihood. My sister frowned, about to speak, when I heard a familiar voice. Song Zhaomian, you wretched woman, why are you still so detestable? Isn't my father and mother's current state you're doing? But fear not, once I am born, everything will improve. I was momentarily taken aback. To my surprise, Xiao Jincheng was no longer in my womb, yet I could still hear his thoughts. Most importantly, he had indeed been reborn within my sister. My sister. Noticing my expression, guess what had transpired? Sister, you can hear him too, can't you? I feigned ignorance.
What?
Stop pretending. I can see it. My sister smiled triumphantly. I was startled when I first heard it too. But doesn't this mean that this child is extraordinary, truly a manifestation of the star of literature? I remained silent for a long time before finally responding, then congratulations are in order. In my sister's eyes, my demeanor was interpreted as envy. She and Xiao Chu left in high spirits. Before long, rumors spread throughout the capital of a woman who could hear the thoughts of children, claiming that the child was a reincarnation of the star of literature, destined to speak upon birth and hailed as a once-in-a-century prodigy. This news gained traction, even reaching Xiejin. 5 months later, Xiejin's health had returned to normal. On the streets, whispers of the prodigy's arrival were rampant, prompting him to take me to witness it. I surmised that my sister and Xiao Chu were truly desperate, to the point of giving birth in public. The entrance fee was 50 taels. Xiejin dropped a hefty ingot of gold and led me inside, quickly bringing me to the front row. Due to malnutrition, my sister's belly was small, resulting in a smooth delivery. All seemed well until the child had yet to emerge, and I heard him speaking incessantly. Mother, I am about to come out. Do not worry, once I am out, I will recite poetry and bring honor to you and father. Here I come. With my sister's loud cry, Xiao Jincheng finally made his entrance. He immediately began to introduce himself. Hello, everyone. Do not be afraid. I am truly the star of literature reincarnated. Not only can I speak, but I can also recite poetry. He joyfully recited an entire poem, only to realize that the crowd's expressions were peculiar. They looked at him as if he were a monster. Xiao Jincheng was somewhat confused. Why is no one speaking? Is it your first time seeing such a child? After several unanswered attempts, he grew anxious. The last time he had emerged from my womb, the attendees had praised his appearance and intelligence, but now everyone bore such expressions. Xiao Jincheng kicked his little legs, attempting to stand and perform. Yet, regardless of his efforts, he fell back onto the bed. After 2 failed attempts, he finally allowed himself to look down. Upon doing so, he was struck with shock. His lower body was bare, and he had only half a leg. Xiao Jincheng's face turned ashen. What happened? Meanwhile, the onlookers gaped in disbelief. Is this the prodigy? What a monstrosity! How could such an ugly child exist? I knew this was a scam. Refund the money. With the first shout for a refund, the rest of the crowd followed suit. Xiao Chu and my sister turned pale. Xiao Jincheng, too, became agitated. What nonsense are you spouting? I am the prodigy. Even the emperor will respect me when he sees me. If you do not believe me, listen to me recite poetry. However, even after he completed a poem, the calls for refunds did not diminish. At that moment, Xiao Jincheng finally realized a grave truth. His words seemed unheard by the crowd. Not only did he lack legs, but he was also mute. If there had been a mirror present, Xiao Jincheng would have discovered his own visage was equally grotesque. In my previous life, he was born with rosy lips and pearly teeth, and even before reaching the age of 2, it was evident that he would grow into a remarkably handsome individual. Yet now, he bears a dark complexion and a face riddled with blemishes from birth. Moreover, his nose is prominent while his eyes are diminutive, and the distance between them is excessively wide, rendering him akin to the village simpleton. Amidst the jeers and taunts of those around, Xiao Jincheng felt a surge of fear. He stretched out both hands, crawling toward his sister, his heart crying out, "Mother, mother, embrace me." In his memories, Song Zhaoxue was the gentlest person in the world. However, just as he crawled closer, his sister forcefully shoved him away, declaring, "You monster.
Keep your distance from me."
Xiao Jincheng was momentarily stunned, then burst into tears. He crawled toward Xiao Chu, waving his hands and calling out for his father. Regrettably, only I and his sister could hear his pleas. Xiao Chu's face had already drained of color, and as Xiao Jincheng approached him, he kicked the child away with disdain. Advancing to question his sister, "What is the meaning of this child?" His sister, overwhelmed, replied, "How should I know? He claimed in the womb to be a prodigy. Handsome and intelligent, who could have foreseen he would emerge like this?" She lifted her gaze to me, suddenly shivering, and rushed toward me, accusing, "It's you. Ancientromance? You must have swapped my child." Like a madwoman, she clutched my arm, demanding the return of her child. Before I could respond, the onlookers could no longer tolerate her outburst. "Have you lost your senses from childbirth? Everyone was present when you gave birth. No one touched your child." Yet she continued to cling to me, asserting, "She must have drugged me. You don't understand. She is my sister, consumed with jealousy since childhood. Always putting things in my food. My son should not look like this. He should be a prodigy. She envies my ability to bear children, while she cannot." Despite her disjointed speech, the crowd was well aware of the intricate web of love and hatred among Xiao Chu, her and me. She had painted herself as a pitiable figure oppressed by me. Because of my unrequited love for Xiao Chu and my proficiency in medicine, I resorted to such despicable means. She claimed. Her words even convinced Xiao Chu, who looked at me in shock. "It truly is you." I could not help but roll my eyes. "Are you both out of your minds? How is this child's condition my fault? It is entirely due to her negligence during pregnancy, drinking, and consorting with other men." I fixed my gaze on Xiao Chu for a moment and kindly informed him, "Those blemishes on your son's face resemble a venereal disease. This ailment must have been contracted in the womb. I recommend you consult a doctor." The moment I laid eyes on Xiao Jincheng, I understood why he had turned out this way. Medical texts indicate that alcohol consumption can lead to deformities in children. In my previous life, I had taken countless precautions during my pregnancy to ensure that Xiao Jincheng was born healthy. Upon learning that her child would be the reincarnation of a literary star, my sister had completely disregarded her private life. Even if Xiao Jincheng were indeed the reincarnation of a literary star, he neither spoke nor had legs. Achieving fame was impossible. After hearing my words, Xiao Chu's face turned ashen. He confronted his sister. "What is the meaning of this? Do you truly frequent such places every night?" It seemed that Xiao Chu was genuinely unaware of his sister's penchant for visiting brothels. My sister immediately panicked. "No, I haven tea."
Broder Xiaoke.
"Don't listen to this woman's slander. She is deliberately framing me." "Song Zhaomian, you wretched woman, I will end you," she shouted, raising her hand to lunge at me. Yet before her hand could descend, it was seized by Xie Jin, who furrowed his brow and threatened, "Dare you lay a finger on my wife?"
Wife.
My sister scrutinized Xie Jin from head to toe, her eyes widening in shock. "You're the crown prince? You truly are handsome." Her words caused an uproar among the onlookers, who promptly knelt. Xie Jin frowned, clearly displeased with the commotion. He merely cast a fleeting glance at the crowd before taking my hand and turning to leave. As we walked back, I felt a pang of anxiety, fearing Xie Jin would inquire about my entanglements with Xiao Chu and my sister. Unexpectedly, he merely turned to me and softly asked, "Did you truly have feelings for Xiao Chu?" I hesitated, contemplating whether to reveal the truth, when a palace attendant rushed in, panic-stricken, kneeling before Xie Jin. "Your Highness, the emperor has suddenly fallen ill and collapsed." Xie Jin's expression hardened as he grasped my hand to the palace. The emperor's sudden ailment caused Xie Jin to forget his inquiries about my past with my sister. Fortunately, the emperor's condition was merely due to exhaustion, requiring only a period of rest for recovery. Just as Xie Jin exhaled a sigh of relief, he heard the emperor request that he govern in his stead. Initially reluctant, seeing his ailing father, he had no choice but to nod in acquiescence. In the following months, Xie Jin displayed astonishing governance skills. Naturally astute, he became even more composed and decisive after his recovery, handling state affairs with utmost efficiency and enacting policies that garnered public favor. Meanwhile, I devoted myself to restoring the emperor's health, meticulously concocting medicinal soups and dishes based on my mother's secret recipes and medical texts. Under my care, The emperor's health steadily improved, his complexion gradually regaining its vitality, and his spirit grew much stronger. Although he was in a state of recuperation, he remained acutely aware of Siejin's every action as regent, his eyes reflecting increasing satisfaction. At last, the emperor's health was largely restored. One day, he summoned Siejin to the palace and solemnly proposed to abdicate the throne in his favor, stating that he was growing old and wished to enjoy a life of leisure, entrusting the realm to Siejin without concern. Siejin naturally declined, expressing his desire to forever alleviate his father's burdens rather than usurp his position. However, the emperor was resolute, even having prepared the abdication decree in advance. After several earnest refusals, witnessing his father's genuine intent to enjoy his twilight years, Siejin ultimately knelt to accept the edict. Thus, Siejin ascended to the throne, and I, in a haze of confusion, became the empress. According to tradition, the newly crowned emperor and empress were required to tour the capital the day before the coronation, celebrating with the populace. Even as I donned the phoenix robe and sat beside Siejin in the splendid imperial carriage, I felt as though I were in a dream. Noticing my pale complexion, Siejin assumed I was merely anxious and took my hand. "Why are you more nervous than I am, my wife?" Ever since encountering my sister, Siejin had taken to calling me wife frequently, as though we were a typical married couple. Yet, with secrets weighing on my heart, I remained perpetually uneasy. I exhaled deeply, addressing him. "Crown Prince, after the tour concludes, I wish to share a secret with you." Siejin paused, agreeing. Yet before the tour could conclude, the secret was abruptly unveiled. Just as Siejin and I exited the palace gates, my sister blocked our path. "Crown Prince, I am Song Zhaoxue, the true one. The woman beside you is an impostor who has usurped my place." I sensed Siejin's body stiffen. The foremost guard drew his sword, pressing it against my sister's neck. "Who is this madwoman daring to slander the crown princess? Take her away." With a command, several guards surrounded my sister. She cried out, "I am not slandering her. I am truly Song Zhaoxue, the future empress. If you do not believe me, I have witnesses." Struggling, she shouted into the crowd for her father. Moments later, he was pushed forward, kneeling before the imperial carriage. "Your Highness, I confess my sins. It is my failure to properly educate my eldest daughter, Song Zhaomian, who conspired with her former husband, Xiao Chu, to usurp the position of crown princess while my second daughter, Zhaoxue, was weak and in a daze due to illness. I could no longer bear to witness this treachery escalate, so I implore your Highness to see through this deception and restore order." His words sent shockwaves through the streets. All gazes pierced through me like needles. I could hardly believe my ears. I was aware of my father's favoritism, yet I never anticipated it would manifest to such an extent. For the sake of my sister, he shamelessly cast all the blame upon me in front of the entire city. However, both he and my sister are utterly foolish to utter such words before a multitude. Do they truly believe they are invulnerable? I let out a cold laugh. "Father, you are indeed adept at presenting one facade while harboring another." It was she who, in her cowardice, fled from the marriage before the wedding, unwilling to bring joy to the crown prince. You, fearing the repercussions on the Song family, begged me to take her place. Now that I have found fortune and the crown prince is in good health, you wish to invert truth and reclaim the riches that have fallen upon me. Such good fortune is rare in this world. I stood up and knelt before Prince Siejin. "Your Highness, I have indeed married in place of my sister. This is an offense against the emperor. If it pleases you, then let our entire family be executed." At this proclamation, my father's and sister's expressions changed dramatically. My sister shouted in anger, "Song Zhaomian, if you wish to die, do so alone. Why must you drag the entire family down with you?" My father, in a state of despair, implored, "Your Highness, do not listen to her. This is all her doing. If anyone is to be punished, let it be her alone." The scene became quite absurd. Just as my father and sister were in a frenzy, someone beside me finally spoke up. "Enough." Siejin sighed and uttered an unexpected remark. "I have known all along about these matters you speak of." It turned out that Siejin had remembered my sister calling me Song Zhaomian. Before returning to the palace that day, he had dispatched secret guards to investigate the situation. We were but common folk, and our actions had not been perfectly concealed. Thus, he quickly learned the entire truth. However, Jin, being kind-hearted and having developed feelings for me, wished to overlook the matter entirely. He had not anticipated my sister would publicly disclose it. Now, even if he wished to avoid action, he was compelled to respond. Jin declared to the world that my sister and father had committed treason against the emperor and were to be punished by the execution of 9 generations. Yet, considering that I was also a victim and had healed both him and the emperor, he balanced the scales of justice and decreed that the primary culprits, my sister, father, and Xiao Chu, be imprisoned, awaiting execution on a future date. Until he finished announcing this punishment, I remained in a daze. Jin has feelings for me? When did that happen? His words echoed in my mind. He likes me. My heart raced, nearly leaping from my chest. It was not until my hand was grasped once more that I regained my composure. Jin smiled at me and asked, "Does the Empress have any objections?" I shook my head. At that moment, guards were already apprehending my sister and father. My father cried out my name repeatedly, "Zhao Mian, save me. I was deceived by your sister. I beg you." Witnessing his desperate demeanor filled me with sorrow. Mother had sacrificed her life to bear a child for such a man. I paid no heed to his pleas. My sister, however, went mad. She struggled violently against the guards, shouting, "Don't touch me. I am the Empress. I am the Crown Princess." After her futile struggles, she turned to me, yelling, "Song Zhaomian, don't think you've won. Xiao Jincheng said that when he last dealt with you, he damaged your womb, and you'll never bear children. The royal family will never accept a barren empress. You'll be cast aside eventually." Ha ha ha. I stood frozen in place. Jin's expression darkened, and he ordered, quickly, "Remove this wretched woman." After dealing with my sister and father, the procession continued smoothly. Due to my shop frequently aiding disaster victims and my treatment of the crown prince, many came to seek my help, regardless of their status. As a result, the acclaim directed at me surpassed that of Jin. He, too, showed no sign of displeasure, holding me tightly in his embrace, displaying me proudly to the crowd. Upon returning to the East Palace, I found myself mulling over my sister's words. Xiao Jincheng might have countless faults, but he never spoke falsehoods. If he claimed to have harmed my womb, it was not beyond the realm of possibility. Just as my sister had indicated, the royal family would not permit a barren empress to exist, and I could not bear to witness Jin surrounded by others. After contemplating for 2 hours, I approached Jin to request my departure. The teacup in Jin's hand fell to the ground. His complexion drained of color, and his body trembled. "Wife, why?" he asked. "Do you not like me?" I sighed and voiced my concerns. "Jin, this time we have spent together is stolen. I have been married before, and I am not pure. I have lost a child and cannot conceive again. I do not care." Jin rushed over to embrace me, burying his head in my neck. I felt something wet fall upon my shoulder. He held me tightly, declaring, "I do not care about your past, nor do I mind whether you can bear children. I love you, Song Zhaomian. My life is yours. I truly do not care about those matters." My heart trembled, yet I could not accept the thought of you taking concubines. The love I sought was for one lifetime, one pair. When I married Xiao Chu,
It was because he shared the same ideals as I.
having lost both parents, he had no attachments and would not take concubines. But Jin was different. His environment and the elders he faced would not allow for such a thing. "I can do all that you mentioned," Jin asserted. "If you do not trust me, then I shall prove it." He straightened up and searched the room, finding a sword on the wall. He took it down and aimed it at himself. I was startled by his action and rushed over to embrace him, shouting, "I believe you, Jin. Please calm down." From that day forth, there were no more misunderstandings between Jin and me. After this incident, I sent someone to inquire about Xiao Chu and Xiao Jincheng's whereabouts. About half a month later, I learned that Xiao Chu had passed away. He was already destitute and had succumbed to disease. After my sister gave birth, he could not bear the shame of his condition and drowned himself in a lake. Witnesses reported that as he jumped, he kept repeating once more, once more. I do not know what he wished for another chance at. As for Xiao Jincheng, I found him in a temple. He is still but a child under a year old. Before my sister could intercept the procession, she had a moment of conscience and abandoned him in a temple. An old monk took him in. I originally intended to merely see how he fared and leave. However, just as I turned to depart, I heard his voice. "Mother, is that you?" My steps faltered. Xiao Jincheng became animated. "It is you, mother.
You came to see me.
Please take me away. I do not wish to stay here. The old monk treats me poorly and often beats me." I sighed. "You have mistaken me. Your mother is Song Zhaoxue." Xiao Jincheng froze and then began to cry. "Mother, are you still angry with me? I was wrong. I should not have abandoned you. Surely you can heal me, can't you? I beg you. I do not want to endure this life any longer. Could you care for me as you did in the past, mother? After all, you will not have children. So why not?" Before he could finish, I slapped him across the face. Xiao Jincheng was stunned for a few seconds, then suddenly began to curse me. "How dare you hit me, Song Zhaomian? On what grounds do you strike me?" In my previous life, I would not only refrain from hitting him, even his falls would cause me to shed tears of sympathy. I scoffed. "Your attitude toward me is reason enough for me to strike you. Do you think I came to save you out of reluctance? I have come to witness your downfall, Xiao Jincheng. Do you truly believe you are prodigy? Without me, you are nothing. The old monk treats you poorly, but this is merely the beginning." Fear flickered across Xiao Jincheng's face. What do you intend to do?" I replied, "You need only wait and see. The most terrifying uncertainty lies in not knowing what may transpire." Xiao Jincheng unleashed a torrent of invective upon me once more. "Song Zhaomian, you vile creature, you deserve to be childless. You forsook me, and thus you shall remain barren for all eternity. Yet I am with child." Xiao Jincheng's countenance turned ashen. "You are deceiving me. I have long since rendered your womb unfit. How could this be possible?" I replied, "Because I carry two." He stood there, utterly astonished. In truth, I had long abandoned hope. Yet, mere days prior, I had once again perceived the heartbeat of a child. He mentioned that he had arrived a tad late and implored me not to hold it against him. Furthermore, he revealed that another home had been irreparably damaged, compelling him to reside in the new one. It was then that I realized my body was unlike that of an ordinary person. I possessed two uteri. Upon sharing this revelation with Xiao Jincheng, I felt a surge of elation. He would languish here forever, while I would embrace a new husband and new children. Both would cherish me deeply. 9 months later, the child within me was born without complication. He was the antithesis of Xiao Jincheng, gentle, understanding, and astute. Upon his birth, he was designated as the crown prince by Xie Jin. He flourished until the age of 18, at which point Xie Jin entrusted the throne to him. Subsequently, we departed for Jiangnan, reveling in carefree bliss. The end of the tale. Thank you for listening. Until we meet again in the next story.